The Steelers went to Cleveland, and all they had to do was win to lock up the AFC North. That did not happen. Pittsburgh never found the end zone. It was a 13-6 Browns victory. The good news, I guess, Aaron Rodgers did avoid Myles Garrett and prevented him from taking that sack record. But was that actually a positive? Here's Myles Garrett after the game.
To an extent, I feel like they were more worried about keeping me away from Aaron than getting the win. And I think that's what came back to bite him.
We didn't do anything against Myles that we don't normally do against Myles. The sack record's irrelevant. We got to minimize him if we want to engineer victory. We did the same thing last time we played him. I didn't think he had any sacks in that game either. And so we didn't take a different approach because of the gravity of the record. It's just standard business when you play these guys and him.
Okay, now I think both things could actually be true. Mike Tomlin could be right. They maybe didn't do anything different, but they also could have been very much focused on not letting Myles Garrett get after Aaron Rodgers. Do we agree with what Myles Garrett said? Was there too much focus on avoiding him as opposed to getting the win?
Yes, but that's how you have to play against Myles Garrett. That's exactly what they did in the first game when Pittsburgh beat him, and everyone lauded the plan by the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you go back in week one, not week one, the first game they played against each other, 0 sacks by Myles Garrett, 2 pressures, 4 pass rush win rates, 4 pass rush wins.
Yeah.
You go to yesterday, 0 sacks, 3 pressures, 7 pass rush wins. So the plan was very clear. This is how you handle elite defensive ends. You don't allow them to wreck the football game. If we watched Pittsburgh just treat Myles Garrett like a regular defensive end, I would have crucified them today for how they would have handled it and planned against him. They did exactly how they should against Myles Garrett. Try to not allow him to wreck the football game. Give yourself a chance. The Steelers lost the game because DK Metcalf wasn't there. And they're going to lose the division because DK Metcalf's not there, not because of the plan with how they handled Myles Garrett.
Sam?
Yeah, when you start to digest and process what that game meant and what happened, Myles Garrett is one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant player in all of football right now, and you have to have a plan for guys like that. When you start to think about the Von Millers of the world, the Aaron Donalds of the world, the J.J. Watts of the world, the Lawrence Taylors of the world, the Reggie Whites of the world, well, you have to mention Myles Garrett as well. If you do not have a plan, if you do not assign 2 people to at least touch him at all times, then there will be a time of the game where his presence will be felt. The Pittsburgh Steelers came into this game with the same type of game plan of saying to themselves, we cannot allow 95 to take over. Did it cost them? No, I wouldn't say that. So to Danny's point, when you do not have DK Metcalf, your red zone threat, when you already are limited with the skill set around you to get open, nobody was open.
Right.
It's only but so much that Arthur Smith can do as far as, the schematics and dialing certain things up. It wasn't a Myles Garrett thing. It was more of the insufficiencies that the Steelers just didn't execute.
Okay. Well, if you ask Steelers fans, they're not happy about this because I don't even remember the last time the Steelers went to Cleveland and lost a game. Like, I don't even remember when that was. But to go into Cleveland, what was a 3-win football team with a rookie quarterback and lose, well, people are upset now in Pittsburgh, as you can imagine, which now sets up a Sunday where they could lose the AFC North. They have to play against the Ravens on Sunday. Is it Saturday night? Sunday night? I forget what day it is.
They play Sunday night.
Sunday night, thank you. Loser doesn't see the postseason. Winner wins the AFC and goes to the postseason. What happens with Mike Tomlin if for some reason the Steelers do end up losing to the Ravens that could be without Lamar Jackson on Sunday night?
Yeah, I think either losing coach is going to have a lot of noise around them and a lot of questions to be answered. And if it's Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, Mike Tomlin is an elite coach. But you are going to say 2 things. One, how did this collapse happen? And I would stand firm that that's going to fall on DK Metcalf's lap, and he's going to have to answer for that, and he's going to have to handle that. And then 2, when do they start over at the quarterback position? That will be the focus point. And if the decision is, okay, we want to start over now, is that going to be Mike Tomlin? Is it going to be Mike Tomlin leading that charge? I would say it feels like he should be that coach. But that's going to have to be for Pittsburgh because he hasn't had a young coach and a young quarterback, at least a high-end dynamic guy in a long time. He had Kenny Pickett. And so now the Ravens the same way. Like if the Ravens collapse and Lamar doesn't play and they don't find a way to get in and they can't beat Pittsburgh without DK Metcalf, without Darnell Washington, without Calvin Austin, the noise is going to be super loud around John Harbaugh as well, who's an elite coach. And so I don't think either losing coach is going to run from a lot of the questions, and rightfully so, they're going to come from losing that game.
The noise is loud because they've expected or they've made the expectations so high that they are their own victim of the situation. What I'm saying is when you talk about John Harbaugh, he's created a standard in Baltimore that when it's not met, he's to blame. The same with Mike Tomlin. He set a standard of expectations so high in Pittsburgh that when it's not met, he's to blame. The factor is this, and I don't think fans fathom this. If you take Pittsburgh Steelers record and you place it with the Las Vegas Raiders, that's a successful season. If you give that same record to the Cleveland Browns, that's a successful season. If you give it to the Miami Dolphins, in some way, shape, form, that's a successful season. Atlanta Falcons, a successful season. I'm saying all that to say is to remind people how great Mike Tomlin is, and he has been a victim of his own success. Now, if you get rid of him, it'll be a big mistake because before he could even clear out his desk in Pittsburgh, he will have a job, guaranteed.
I wouldn't say victim of their own success. I think this, Cam, one, in relation to Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin also had to have a hand in putting this all together, putting all this roster, this situation. I think it's the oldest or the second oldest team in football together. And the reality is this, like here, they would have won yesterday with DK Metcalf. They would have won this division if he was available. Because if you go back, it was this game against Miami on Monday Night Football, and it was just picking apart. The final 4 plays of that game, Cam, they line up in basically the same formation. Cleveland runs the same defense. They're playing man coverage, and they're saying, our guys are better than your guys. You're going to stand still, and you don't have anybody that's going to beat us. And so I think that for the grace that I give Mike Tomlin is there was a lot of good happening for this football team up until that moment happens in that sideline interaction with DK Metcalf and that fan. I can't overstate that. Not having DK Metcalf in this offense was unbelievably damning. And then for Baltimore, I go back to this. They put together the best roster and most talented roster in football to start this season, certainly in the AFC. And they just have fallen short. And there's no question been an injury. Lamar has missed time. I watched Brock Purdy miss 8 games. They're battling for the number 1 seed in San Francisco, okay? And so there's been certain Lamar has missed time. But the fact that if Baltimore can't beat Pittsburgh without their best receiver, their best tight end, their best slot player, and maybe their best pass rusher in TJ Watt, if they can't beat them, even if Lamar doesn't play, that's a damning situation because of the expectations that were set, but also the reality of the talent on the roster.
So John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, I'm not saying anything brand new here, are 2 of the most longest tenured coaches in the NFL. From my vantage point, now I'm not in Baltimore, it does feel like Mike Tomlin's seat is just warmer because of the brand of football we've been getting. Like when everyone is seemingly healthier on the Ravens team, we know what we're getting out of them. We know what schemes they're going to run. We know how they rely on their quarterback. Their defense has gotten much better as the year has gone on. With Pittsburgh, there have been some games where we're like, what is going on? Sure. They don't even look competitive.
Sure.
Think about when Buffalo ran down their throat. What we saw yesterday was head-scratching. Yes, they didn't. The George Pickens of it all, though, to your point, sure. in Mike Tomlin having a hand in this roster, like the way George Pickens played this year and the way the Steelers now have, they need DK Metcalf to win the last 2 games.
I think it comes down for Pittsburgh, Shae, is when do they decide to start over at quarterback? And do they want Mike Tomlin being the person who spearheads that young quarterback's development? And I know he's the defensive-minded head coach, Cam, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's going to be a real question.
Yeah. I mean, they've tried. They've tried to have a successor to Ben Roethlisberger ever since Ben Roethlisberger has retired. You go and draft a Kenny Pickett. That didn't pan out. Newsflash to anybody who watches football. That's a testament to your draft pick not panning out. It costs and sets back a franchise for years. So therefore, I'm looking at two different franchises with two different issues. Yes, they've probably tried to go out and reenact what they need in the personnel standpoint in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But on the other side of with the Baltimore Ravens, it's Todd Monken to blame. When you sit up here and you see Derrick Henry rush for 36 times, he's well and capable. He's been healthy all year. And this is a display, what we've seen on Saturday's performance, that he is still able to perform at a high level. You just haven't asked him to perform at a high level. There were games where Derrick Henry was still getting, those type of Derrick Henry chunks and defenses, and you never go back to him. And those are the frustration things that when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, that's why they haven't succeeded. It's the inability to really showcase and identify what our identity is on the offensive side and shine away from that. Well, from Pittsburgh's standpoint, they've been trying to find a successor at the quarterback position. It just hasn't panned out. You go to a Russell Wilson. You go to a Justin Fields. You go to Mason Rudolph. You go to all these different quarterbacks. It doesn't matter because of injury or skill set. That's been their reality. And once again, the Pittsburgh Steelers will not have an opportunity unless they say, hey, we're going to trade some picks to get the quarterback we want. They've always had and will always have the mid-round to late-round picks, and there will not be no quarterbacks there that you can say will be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
So Cam, you don't blame any of that on either head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you don't blame it because they still are responsible for the wholeness of any team. But when you think about one team's needs versus another team's needs, they are completely different. The fact that Mike Tomlin has crafted this team to be competitive each and every year he's been a head coach is something to marvel after. And yes, every year is expected to be a Super Bowl champion. Well, he's not able to do that because when he was a Super Bowl champion, he had a franchise quarterback. If I'm Mike Tomlin in the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm betting all bets to try to find a solidified starter for years to come. Not just a Band-Aid approach, what they've done with Aaron Rodgers, what they've done with Russell Wilson, what they've done with Justin Fields. They have to find and identify their guy to move forward. That has been the strain of really why they haven't been able to really catapult into success, in my opinion.
Okay, so it gets real uncomfortable in Baltimore if they lose and Derrick has like 16, 18 carries. Baltimore should try to give Derrick the ball 30-plus times in this game. I think if they do, they win the football game. To Cam's point, if Mike Tomlin wins, and let's say they keep him as their head coach, and I would, the number one move I would make would be Malik Willis. I would go sign Malik Willis from Green Bay in free agency this year. I think he's proven to be a starting quarterback. I think that starts your next quarterback journey in Pittsburgh.
Okay, so you would take the backup in Green Bay to be the starter long-term in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, for what it's worth, Pittsburgh did have a chance to take a quarterback last year in the draft. They opted not to. Yep. They waited, and they decided to bring Aaron Rodgers in to, what you said, kind of be a Band-Aid. We'll see how this all works out.
Can I throw something in real quick?
Go ahead, quickly, and then we got to move on. Yeah?
You got Malik Willis, or what about this one, Danielle? What about Mac Jones? He's still a young quarterback that fits and suits everything that you want. If it's not Malik Willis, it's Mac Jones. Those quarterbacks are, in this essence, give you a college analogy. They're the quarterbacks that has the biggest evaluation in the transfer portal, so to speak. Yeah. And they have the biggest upside. They're still young, they're veteran-esque, and they're still waiting on a home.
It's a good point. Okay, so options maybe if they do decide to keep Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Nonetheless, it all comes down to this Sunday night, Baltimore against Pittsburgh, winner take all. Winner goes to the postseason, loser's going to go home.